What is the best revenge you've ever gotten on someone? I made my old boss think I gave him herpes. I worked in a crappy factory for a while, and my boss was a dick. A dick beyond dicks, like fire people for no reason then go home and beat your wife dick. He was also untouchable due to his uncle owning the company. He would come down to the floor while we were at break to check our work, and he would use my gloves to do it. Made us buy our own gloves. I bought really nice comfy ones. Thought this was extremely nasty. It was the middle of summer, and asked him to stop. He just shrugged. After about 3 happenings I got an idea. I grabbed an old pair of gloves, a poison ivy leaf, and a hammer. Put the poison ivy in glove and pounded away. Kept the gloves in a bag in my lunchbox till I went to lunch. Sure enough, left the poison gloves out and he used them. I came back and sure enough he used them. 2 hours later he came out to my machine, itching like crazy and red bumps all over his hands. Came right up to me, "Let me see your hands." I showed him my hands, he showed me his. "You didn't use my gloves, did you? I got some terrible rash on my hands from some slut at the strip club last week." No words, no looks, he just left. He left work, went to the DR, and I hope told that exact story. In high school. My best friend since the 3rd grade, blew my BF of 2 years. I found out and stopped talking to her. She then starts dating this really hot guy a year older than us, and I became his friend. We turn into really good friends, and after a year of her being with him and him being my new best friend, he finally admits he has feelings for me. He then dumps her and I get the satisfaction of watching her cry in the parking lot. Best revenge ever. I didn't suck his dick and he left her ass just because he liked me. I was living with a friend of mine and a girl I didn't know too well. We became friends and started hanging out a bunch. I ended up getting into a car accident on the freeway and had to move home. It took me a few days to get back to pack, and when I did, most of my stuff was missing. I was furious and upset about it. The girl told me my friend had a few people over and that maybe they had taken the stuff. Well, I went to grab some boxes and pack some more while she was gone and went into her room to snoop, and sure enough, this girl had taken over half my closet and hid it in her room, including my CDs, old antique perfume bottles my grandma had given me, down to socks and bras. WTF. So anyway, I was livid, packed all my stuff and took all my stuff out of her room that she was trying to steal. Then went back with some black garbage bags and took all of her clothes she had hanging up and anything else I could find. Took it all to BFE and lit it on fire. She called me frantic and said she was missing all her stuff, and I told her the people that took my stuff must have took hers too. Once she knew she'd been caught, she threatened me and told me she was going to call the cops. I told her to go ahead. They wouldn't have found anything anyway. Fast revenge is good revenge. When we were kids, my sister pushed a whole raw egg into my mouth while we were fighting. I threw up and pushed that into her mouth. Justice done. In 8th grade, the class bitch spread a rumor saying that me and my best friend were lesbian for each other and that I'd contracted head lice from her pubes. Coincidentally, the kids we babysat at the time had a bad case of lice. In a moment of ingenuity, me and my friend swiped a few off their heads and put them in an envelope. The next morning in homeroom, we saw the little cunt asleep on her desk and dumped the lice on her head when no one was looking. They made themselves at home and she had lice for a month. For lovely weeks of giggling uncontrollably every time we saw her hopelessly scratching her infested head during class. Payback's a bitch. I caught my husband cheating on me, so in the course of a week, I found a place to live, hired movers, and planned for all of the utilities, gas, water, electricity, cable/internet, to be transferred to the new house. It was convenient that they were all in my name. I made all the arrangements to occur on Friday. I scheduled for the movers to come after he left for work and they packed up the furniture. I did leave his clothing and absolute personal things, and moved it to my new place. So, he came home from work around 6 p.m. to an empty house with no utilities. I don't imagine he went to stay at his new girlfriend's house since she was a college student living with her mom and dad. Also, it just happened to be April 1st. Every April Fool's Day I giggle just a little for the biggest fool I'll ever know. Edit, since all utilities were in my name, obviously I was employed, and maybe not so obvious was that I was the breadwinner. I did not take any money from him. It was also his payday, so I knew he'd be able to get things turned back on Monday. As for the furniture, the majority of it was mine before we married. What I didn't mention was that I was 12 weeks pregnant at the time and maybe not have the best reasoning or sense of right and wrong. But you know, I just found out my husband and father of my kid was fucking some whore that was a friend to me in our house while I worked. 0 fucks were given from either of us. When I was in high school I had a friend who was a grade higher than me. We lived down the block from each other. One day at school I saw him in the hallway and asked him a question about soccer, which we both played. He looked at me and said, "Do I know you?" and walked off. I blew it off, and when I got home went over to his house to talk to him about it. He said, "Sorry, but you are a junior and I am a senior. I have standards." I hated him for this comment. I spent a good 2 months hashing out my plan for revenge. I figured out that his mom and dad love their lawn and manicure it every 2 to 3 days. I found out his only child insecurity. He hated lawn work. One Friday night I found a Jewish deli that made fresh dough for bagels. They throw out the rest of the dough from the bagels at the end of the night. At midnight, I grabbed a trash bag of this dough and headed to my friend's house. For the next 5 minutes, I threw little chunks of dough all over his lawn. By the way, this was in the full summer heat in the southern U.S. The next day when the sun rose, those little nuggets of dough started to rise like fucking hybrid mushrooms all over his lawn, and they stuck to the lawn like concrete. His mother and father came out to go to work and was horrified. They blamed their son and his senior classmates for it, and he spent the entire weekend scrapping that dough up.